And we're live. Live on Facebook, live on YouTube. Blog Talk Radio episode will start at 1 o'clock. I'm on a trial basis with Blog Talk at 3 minutes and 18 seconds before I start this episode on Blog Talk. I have no idea what I'm doing with it. It's a bit of an experiment. Mike Chisholm's obviously not here. He's in Langley currently. Thought he can make it back. He will not. Trying to get this second podcast in before Mania starts. So I just have this going on YouTube and Facebook. Start the audio recording on Audacity in a couple minutes. And then right at 1 o'clock, it will start on Blog Talk Radio. So we'll get the episode's content started at 1 o'clock. So you got about 2.5 minutes left. I'm sure people are sick of seeing me already today. I've already done a wrestling live talking about Mania today. This will probably be a shorter cast. I said that about the wrestling one, but then people started watching right at the 25-minute mark, so I kept that going a little longer. So we'll see how this goes. See if anyone's interested. Most of the people in my social media circles will be watching Mania. I know a lot of people getting ready for that, which is awesome. I'm pretty excited for Mania myself. We will be talking about being woke today, but I'll explain all this after the intro. I'm much more efficient when I'm not waiting for Mike Chisholm. I'm like ready to go. Still got time. So 1 minute, 30 seconds before I start the Blog Talk version of this. No one watching yet, which is not necessarily a bad thing because we are waiting here. Maybe we shouldn't have started at 4 minutes before, but that's all right. Yeah, I'll read something here. So not professional. Also not a fan of this camera, but that's all right. Just doesn't, it's not the highest quality. I will invest in higher quality technology at some point. All right, we got 40 seconds. We're going to see how this goes. Once I figure out what the fuck I'm doing on Blog Talk, we'll get the intro going. I also hope at least a couple people join me for this one because I don't have Chisholm to fill the empty space with. So I thought I would literally be talking to myself, which was what I was originally going to call this podcast, arguing with myself. The irony of it all. All right, 10 seconds, and then we'll see what happens. I have literally no idea what I'm doing with Blog Talk, so we'll see how this goes. See, waiting for host. I don't know what that means. Awesome. All right, then. Oh, I think it is going. Well, that's embarrassing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the World of Gray podcast. In a society divided by black and white arguments, me alone, am here to discuss the world of gray. I am Kelowna's Cougar Meat Kid Colin Cutler, and Mike Chisholm is away today. The topic we're going to be discussing today is woke. Being woke. What does woke mean? We hear this a lot. Is being woke a ideology? Is it just being aware of the deception around us? Is being woke just pulling your consciousness out of ignorance? Or is being woke just another form of tribalism for conspiracy theorists and hipsters? So that's what we're discussing today. I constantly try to change my ideologies and upgrade my beliefs and replace some of my false notions as I acquire more information. But at some point in my life, I do feel like I had a moment of, I don't want to say wokeness, but of pulling, like I said before, pulling my consciousness out of ignorance. And what I mean by that is I watched a documentary that I think it was on 9/11 or something like that. I'm not saying, like, my views have evolved since I was like 15, 16 when these videos came out, and my ideologies have definitely shifted since. So I really don't know. I don't buy into a lot of conspiracies now. I don't know what happened in 9/11. I know with a lot of the documentaries that are out, I definitely still have some questions, but I'm not an expert by any means. But one thing that did definitely come out of me watching this content is that it definitely made me question more things. And I feel like if it wasn't for that slight conspiratorial mindset that I was in at some point, I may not be the inquisitive person that's doing a World of Grey podcast. One thing I am going to do, so unprofessional, I'm just going to share this page on my Colin Cutler page, just because the World of Grey tends to get buried and not a lot of people get to see it. It's a great intro to Blog Talk. Kill this podcast before it even starts. I also have no way of knowing if what I'm doing on Blog Talk is even working. But that's just kind of how she goes. So yeah, I'm going to try to keep this podcast within the half an hour parameter that I have on Blog Talk, and we'll see if we can get some more people into this chat. So we have one person watching. I don't even know who is watching. So what we're talking about today in the World of Grey is being woke. So what does that even mean? Is it an ideology? Is it a bit of a, I don't want to say cult of personality, because there's no real one person that attaches themselves to this, but is this just another hipster conspiratorial mindset? Or is there something to pulling yourself out of ignorance and looking around and picking other news sources? I know we've talked about this a little bit with the Indoctrination podcast and even the Conspiracy podcast, how because we're so inherently tribal, we tend to cling to different echo chambers. If you've never heard of what an echo chamber is, an echo chamber is where when all you do is feed yourself one view of an argument or one perspective. So say you hang out with the same friends with the same ideologies, then you go, I mean, politics is the easiest example. So let's say I'm a left-leaning, I have a left-leaning political stance, and I only hang out with liberal type people and progressive type people, and I only look at progressive news. That's an echo chamber. An echo chamber just keeps you in the same mindset. And if you never break yourself free of that echo chamber, it's really hard to form critical opinions of anything. So my question is this being woke mindset just another form of these echo chambers? And is there a tipping point between questioning the things around you and questioning everything all the time to a point of paranoia? This is where we get into conspiracies. And there is a lot of conspiratorial content on YouTube that also bleeds and blends in this theory of being woke. And it also tends to be a bit of an umbrella term, because I guess really if we want to answer what being woke means, we need to kind of ask what our perception of being woke is. And is it as simple as not listening to one narrative of Fox News and CNN because they constantly lie and they have ulterior motives? Or does it jump to this, I'm just going to not believe anything that's being told to me unless it's, so outrageous that it seems like I'm the only one that knows? This is the conspiracy side. is people like conspiracies for that reason, is they want to feel like, oh, I'm woke. Everyone else is just sleeping sheep. I'm the one that knows, and I'm the one that's awake, and I'm part of this small group of people that know the truth. Now, I don't think that the overall intention of people that want to be woke or want other people to wake up is always a bad thing. I think it's important to question things. And this is why when it comes to things like the flat earth, is ridiculous as flat earth theory is, and these people think, oh, they're woke to this flat earth, is ridiculous as flat earth is. I think the ideology of questioning everything around you is not necessarily a bad thing to just question, but you gotta source out all different types of information and make a critical decision, and not just have one video catch your attention and then just seek out more of that same thing until you just end up believing in flat earth or whatever. So in the comments, a couple people watching now, Charles, Jonathan, what does being woke mean to you? Do you have any idea what I'm even talking about? So I did put a poll up. Are you woke? Do you think you're woke? Do you think you're not woke? Or are you like, what the fuck does that even mean? For me, I'm kind of in the middle between yes and what the fuck does that even mean? I think we really need to, and this goes for a lot of arguments, and I think this is where a lot of people miss the boat when it comes to just having either civil discourse or just a normal conversation, is we need to set the parameters of what woke means. And then I think grow from there. So I think it's definitely, for me, it depends on the situation. And there is things, if you want to just use the term woke, some people need to wake up too. I'm partially woke. As in, it's 1 o'clock and we're just kind of getting awake now. I hope everyone's had their coffee and is, in the literal sense, awake for this podcast. But, and does this bother you? There's a lot of people that just can't stand the term woke because, and I don't blame them. Joe Rogan talks about this a little bit. He just hates the term woke because it just sounds silly. I mean, are you aware of things? Oh, Chase. Oh, this is a good topic for Chase. Talking about being woke, bro. Chase, are you woke? I want to hear what Chase says. Chase is a really good friend of mine that never hangs out with me anymore, but I absolutely love him to bits. One of my favorite people in the world. So what I'm asking is there a thing as being woke, and does that go too far? I just woke up. I just made that joke. I literally just made that joke. That's so funny. Chase is woke just now. He just woke up. I've had 3 cups of coffee. I'm super woke. But like I'm saying, I think there's good aspects to the woke mentality and just being aware of the things around you and having a different perspective. One thing I did want to talk about, and I mean, if I would have done this podcast like 5 months ago, I would have had, Kyle and Chase. This is so good. Talking about being woke, bros. I need both of you to comment on, because I know you have some smart ass things to say. I want to kind of talk about, so Kyle, Chase, talking about kind of the ridiculousness of being woke, but also I want to explore the world of gray of being, oh my God, the more I keep saying woke, the more ridiculous I realize that this podcast is. But I want to talk about the mentality being woke. So what I was going to say is Jim Carrey, was a couple years ago, started doing all these interviews talking about the ego and self and what does that even mean? Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting to scroll this shit down. No such thing as woke. God. Yeah. So that's the question. Like, well, there is, but Chase, that's a problem though, is there is such thing as woke because people say it. We just have to like narrow down what the fuck does that mean, right? What the fuck does that mean being woke? But one of the interesting parameters here, one of the interesting ideologies, people using Jim Carrey's conversations about the ego and self and saying, oh, he's woke. Well, whatever the fuck you mean by that, Jim Carrey came to a realization that our sense of self is just masks, right? So just to give this a little more context, I'm a big believer that we're not like one person. Like, I know we think we are, and we're this person, and we formulate our entire reality around like me and like the center. But I'm a big believer that we're all a bunch of different people depending on the situation. We're just a bunch of meat and chemicals, and different situations fire off these different chemicals. Like hungry Colin is a lot different than full Colin or tired Colin or I was going to say something sexual, but I'm not going to. But I'm different people at different times, and me out in the world or at work is different than when like what's in my head when I'm by myself. So we're a bunch of different people, but we, as a survival mechanism, we do formulate this ego self to. I woke up moist. What the fuck? That was good. That threw off my whole train of thought. We have some sort of sense of self that is like our stake in the ground, and we formulate everything else around it. And without it, I mean, this happens a lot with psychedelics, and people go through ego death, which I've definitely experienced, which is really hard to describe. So if anyone out there has ever experienced ego death, if there's ever something that you can consider woke, I would say ego death is one of those things. So when you take that sense of self, that ego, and remove it, it's like pulling off the veil, and you don't even realize anything, but an experience happens where everything you've ever experienced can kind of formulate and happen at the same time. Ego death is really hard to explain. You have to kind of experience it to understand it. But we start to pull that ego away, and it can really humble a person and make you just have a different perspective. And that's really all reality is different perspectives. So I think if you are indoctrinated from a young age and are taught certain things, and this is how the world is, and this is how you have to act, and you're a good little soldier, and you follow standard societal protocol until you get to an age, and then you have some conversations, or you see some videos, or then you start to question things, and then at some point you look around and you go, oh, it's fucking. First of all, when the older you get, the more you realize that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. So one thing I realized getting into my 30s is the older you get and the more you talk to people, nobody really knows what the fuck they're doing. We're all just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But you start to look around, and you start to question things a little bit more, especially mainstream narratives. And, oh, you have to do this, and this is what success is. It's like, yeah, but why? Why do you have to tell me what success is? Maybe I decide what success is. So in that form, breaking from the status quo, if that's what we're calling woke, then yeah, maybe that is a good thing. But we can also go too far. And this goes with anything. We see it, and especially in the world now with algorithms dividing the country, and we see it with politics, and everything gets so divided. We see it with PC culture is another one, gets way too divided. Either way, conformity. You know what the funny thing, we talked about this in another podcast, is when people don't want to conform, it becomes its own ideology and tribe, to a point where the non-conformity becomes a group, and it just becomes the most ironic shit ever. Like, I'm a non-conformist. Ooh, me too. Let's hang out. Let's all be non-conformists together and wear the same clothes because we're non-conformists and we wear the same shit. So I think that's interesting. But there definitely is a status quo that we're all kind of nudged towards. And I think that is one beauty of the internet, is that we can, if we decide to, seek out so many different alternative forms of information, and we can really formulate our own opinions. So, I mean, hey, if that's what being woke is, it's just being more aware. And when somebody tells you, oh, this is the way it is, you're like, yeah, but is it? Why? Why does it have to be that way? I think the more we can do that, the more change we're going to see for the better. But not to get too far off track, we really do have to keep civil discourse civil, and we have to be willing to discuss ideas. And I just was having this discussion online today, is why I am left leaning, but I don't consider myself like part of the left. Because when you start calling yourself part of the left or part of the right, those far sides don't listen to each other, and they get stuck in those echo chambers that I just described, and no good discussion comes from it. And I may be left leaning, but it happens on the left, it happens on the right. Right's a little bit more smug about it, and the left is a little bit more naive and ignorant to it. And so I think that in itself is, you could call being woke, because, and so then we get these sub echo chambers of being woke, like all these people that say they're woke, but like you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Contradicting, eh? Yeah, well, there's a lot of contradictions. It's the world of gray, Kyle. It's the whole concept. Contradicting everything is kind of what I do here. So I would just like to know everyone else's opinion on what this woke means. I think I've kind of said my piece on this. This is going to be a short podcast today. I've already done one of these today. I got 13 minutes left on Blog Talk. To be perfectly honest, it keeps saying waiting for host, and then it's just counting down. I don't know what that means. I think it wants me to pay for some shit. So this may have been a complete useless Blog Talk, but that's okay. We're still on our regular platforms, and that's good enough. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I need a producer. For sure. Anybody want to volunteer and be a producer? Give me a DM. You're hired. You have to know what you're doing, though, because if you just have another person not know what they're doing, it doesn't help shit. So, interesting topic, being woke. I don't think this topic necessarily has a ton of substance where I could talk about this for an hour, so I'm glad we're just doing a shorter one. It's just more of a question. What does that mean to you? Does it annoy you? I know a lot of people that just can't stand hearing the term being woke. And this is the other thing when it comes to these new ideologies, when they come around, is they're always going to be bastardized. It's like this with PC culture, right? Is someone's going to say, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should lean towards, getting rid of some of this speech. And then, oh, you're trying to destroy all free speech. No, not quite. So, bye, Kyle. See you, man. So, Jonathan, I just want you to elaborate on that a little bit. So, Jonathan's saying people say that you're introverted because I seen something on Netflix. But what did you see on Netflix? And I get this a lot too, because I have some interesting points of views on things. I'm not saying like people will find them interesting. I mean, I have some like different point of views on a lot of things. I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong, and they're morphing constantly. But yeah, sometimes I understand when you have different points of view as other people, and we're in this crazy world where, again, because of people being stuck in these echo chambers, when you say something that goes kind of against that echo chamber, they tend to just shut you down. And then that might, I don't know if this is what you mean, but then that might cause people to become introverted because they just, every time I talk about my opinion, people kind of shut it down. This is why I think discussions like this podcast are so important, because I'm not expecting to get hundreds of thousands of people viewing this. I just want 5 or 6 people to discuss their opinions. And I think these little conversations over time can open up these, I got to stop saying echo chambers, but it can open up people out of their echo chambers, because I want to hear all different points of view. I was just talking to some of my staff about these yesterday. Is I will purposely, in my YouTube searches, in like anything I watch, any information I look up, I purposely look up opposing points of view. Like on my Xbox YouTube application, I just put in right-wing conservative news and just started clicking videos and watching shit that made me cringe, because there's a lot of smugness on the right that I just can't stand. But I watch them and I listen to them, not just to listen to that information at the time, but just to feed the different points of views in the algorithms. Because the problem is if you lean to one side of an ideology and you start looking up that, like if I'm left leaning politically, and I go politically because it's just an easier example. If I lean left politically and I only look up left leaning alternative news sources, well, what am I going to be fed in my YouTube algorithm? I'm just going to be fed more left wing news, and this is what an echo chamber is. So I will purposely put in like right-wing news and things that make me cringe and are hard to watch, just to even out that algorithm. And so on the topic of like being woke and being aware, I think this is a good way to pull yourself out of that ignorance, is to see all different points of view. Don't look at them as emotional arguments. Don't look at your argument and their argument. I try to just pull back and look at argument A, argument B, because the emotional plea, the emotional side of it is 100% human nature. It's normal. It's normal for us to have a belief, solidify it, and hold on to it. Our brain wants to do that. It wants to go, okay, this is my ideology. This is what I believe. And it's going to be really hard to sway me. But you can train this. And if you just look at arguments as argument A, argument B, here are the points here, and then you just try to the best of your knowledge from other information you've brought in, decide what you now believe from that information, as long as you're getting all the different sides of information. And you can still be wrong, and you have to be okay with being wrong. Okay, so Jonathan is going to clarify a little bit here. He had an argument with a buddy the other day, and it basically, he's basically like, well, it's the way it is because I'm an introvert. Feel like he doesn't even know what it is. I don't know where I'm going. Okay. I'm pretty high. That's awesome. I am not high at all, but if I was, I would probably do the exact same thing. But I do get what you're saying. You're trying to have a discussion with a buddy, and you have a different point of view, and he goes, oh, well, you're just introverted, so that's the why you feel that way. Well, people will write you off, and that's the other thing when we're talking about this. It's called confirmation bias. It's called confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance. So when you have confirmation bias is more when you look something up. Oh, dog's coming in. Or that was a ghost. I'm not sure. Oh, hi, Daisy. Confirmation bias is more you're looking to confirm your biases. Obviously, you're looking to solidify your point of view by just purposely looking up information. But cognitive dissonance is more when somebody, like Jonathan's saying, when he's having this discussion, you may say something that goes against the ideology of the friend that you have, and he doesn't like that. So it'll cause physical symptoms. So some people get angry. Some people they just feel gross and they don't like it, and they just argue for the sense of arguing. And it's a hard thing to overcome that cognitive dissonance. And I worked really hard at, like I said, pulling back and looking at arguments as two objective points of view instead of my argument and their argument. And you can train this rational thought over time, but you're still going to be privy to it regardless of how you try to control it. But I do think that in the grand scheme of what we're talking about today is being woke. I think if I had to put a definition on being woke, and I don't talk about, like, I don't say I'm woke. I do think it sounds ridiculous, but it is something that comes up a lot. If you want to ask me, like, what does that mean? I think what it means is having the ability to look up as many sources of information on one topic as possible and try to come up with your own objective truth, regardless of preconceived notions due to your tribe, right? And it's okay to have a tribe. Like I said, I'm left leaning. I think most of the progressive arguments of, taking care of everyone around us and caring about people over money, I agree with that side of the conversation, but it doesn't mean I agree with everything on the left. And I think that's the problem, is we need to wake up and get to a level where we can just discuss every topic or political policy on their own instead of just, well, no, I have to believe in gun control and I have to believe in taking away people's guns because I also care about people and I'm on the left. No, I'm a hunter. I think if people go through the right process, and maybe we need gun regulation, sure, but if people go through the right process, and they're hunters, then like, why are we getting rid of their guns? And I think there's definitely arguments to be made there. But when you just decide your ideology just based off what team you're on, I think that can be dangerous. I think it is dangerous. I think we can quantify that right now in the world we live in, because it is dangerous and it's on both sides. And I'm not saying it's only the right or only the left. I know people that are conservative and they're very everyone's normal, but they're the conservative, but they're not like, this extreme version of the right that you're going to get fed to you in the algorithms when you YouTube, and the same thing with the left side. So I think we just need to, again, explore the world. Pretty much what I've said for the last half hour is we need to explore the world of gray. So I could have just put the title up and not said anything and explained the exact same point. So I got 4 minutes left on Blog Talk. Blog Talk Radio, which is going to be the new platform for the World of Grey podcast. We're still going to do the Facebook lives. We're still going to do the YouTube lives, and we're going to build this thing slowly from the ground up. I still say we're in beta mode. None of this really even counts. We may even go back to some of these same topics that we've discussed in the past and kind of like evolve our opinions on them and ideologies. But if you have any topics that you would like us to discuss in the future when my podcast partner Mike Chisholm returns, please either you can DM the World of Grey podcast or Colin Cutler. You can leave them in the comments here. I really want this podcast to be for the people to get conversation going more than to get views. This isn't about money. This isn't about views. This is about getting little conversations going and getting out of these echo chambers. So like I was saying to Chisholm, we shouldn't get woke. We should get wogue, W-O-G. We should get the World of Grey. We should get into the World of Grey. Don't get woke, get wogue. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me in a world divided by black and white arguments. We, me, today alone. But next time with Mike Chisholm are here to explore the World of Grey. And for all my wrestling peeps in my echo chamber, enjoy WrestleMania Sunday, and we'll see you next time. Peace and love.